Our guest this episode is a visual storytelling expert who's taken Hollywood level production and applied it to one of the toughest audiences out there, business to business buyers. As the CEO of Screenspace, he helps go to market teams show how their products work and why they matter through immersive, interactive experiences. Before that, he spent 2 decades working with brands like Disney, Fox, HBO, and DreamWorks, crafting moments that captured attention and held it. Now he's focused on bringing that same level of immersion into the buyer's journey. So here to discuss how to create immersive buyer experiences, please welcome Darren Fanton. Welcome to the Engaging Personalities Podcast. I'm Anders Belanger, founder and CEO of Engagify, where we're on a mission to rehumanize business through engagement. We believe that we can all be more successful if we can command attention and deepen connection. So stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest on a future episode. So let's get ready to engage. Aaron, welcome to the...
An intro. That was fantastic, Anders.
That's the way we do it here. That's the way we do it. So you know what? Speaking, this is going to be unprofessional, but I think this is a great place to start. Is that we normally do our research. That's how we'd write up that write-up. But for questions, like we'd normally research questions, and I didn't in this case, just because. Darren, you and I have known each other from before, so this isn't our first time talking. And I just knew that, and even before we officially started recording, we were saying we feel like there was going to be some good vibing here. So I'm not.
There's always good vibing. I don't think we've ever stuck to the actual defined time that we're supposed to actually have a meeting. So so we'll try to get this within the 30-minute window of what our target.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have fun.
I might just let it go. This might be a long one, people. Just buckle up. We don't know. But yeah, I do remember one of our first, Zoom calls. And so just full disclosure, I am a client of Screenspace, and we use Screenspace on our website for our visual models, and we're going to get into all of that. But yeah, I think one of our first calls, we just started like, oh, this is good. I'm like, I got to have you on the podcast. And so it's that was a while ago. And so we finally, made it happen. So, so I'm excited you're here too. So Darren, let's start at the start. Tell us about this Hollywood background, because we touched on that in the intro, and I'm sure people listening
are like,
is he a director? What was he? So let's start in the start and tell us your background so that people can understand the value you bring to the space that you're in now.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're going to be rewinding quite a far back, actually. So actually, what got me into even Hollywood and before that was storytelling. I've been a storyteller my whole life. Even when I was, a young kid with my identical twin brother, Adam, who's been with me. I don't even know if I told you I have an identical twin brother, but
yeah.
I did. Okay.
You're the face of the company.
Yeah.
He has the same face because they work together. I just love that.
Yeah,
part.
exactly.
Sorry.
No,
I stole your joke.
It's
there.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And we've been, obviously not physically joined at the hip, but we've spent our whole life, chasing our passion, which has been shared in the storytelling space. And in the early days, we would grab a camera, go in the backyard, and shoot little films, and I loved visual effects, and I loved these creating really impactful emotional moments, and so we would just have fun with it. Like we just love storytelling. Never thought of it something as being a career or something that we might study. And it very quickly took us into the kind of Hollywood film space. I shot a feature film in high school, grabbed a camera from the place where I went as weightlifting. They had a camera, and I said, "Hey, can I borrow that?" Spent a couple weeks and shot a feature film with a few friends of mine, and it kind of kicked everything off and got me really excited. And at the same time, my twin brother was getting into web design, and not at the time. I don't know if you remember, some of the people listening to this podcast may not have been around then, but Flash. Yeah, I don't know if you remember Flash web design that Apple decided to kill. At the time, we were creating Flash websites, right? A traditional flat website back when I was in middle school was not good enough. And so my brother and I learned Flash, we learned Photoshop 2.0, and we just found this love for visuals, for design, and for story. And that led us to for myself to USC in the cinema film school, and my twin brother into UCLA in design media arts. And that's kind of where everything started forming. That's when we started a creative agency in Hollywood that was really focused on exactly that, right? Visual storytelling. We are brought in at the script stage. Directors, producers would bring us in to say, okay, here's the story. Here's the commercial or the feature script or the show. We've worked with American Idol, Dance with the Stars, all those video packages that visualize and show the story of the people that we're about to meet. And it would bring us in to find out, how can we use visual storytelling to enhance the emotion or what the kind of the point and impact of the content piece. And so that's, we created an agency around that, serving the studios in Hollywood kind of world. And I loved it. It was great. It was kind of I felt like that was like I was on the top of the world. I get to work on, Dance with the Stars, Kanye West music videos, Britney Spears back in the day. I was like, this is fantastic. And then we got to a point where we started working with a lot of B2B companies. And
It just evolved then.
it
Yeah.
just evolved. And I fell
Yeah.
in love with the challenge that the B2B audience is the worst audience in the world, right? They don't want to be there. They're confused.
Yeah.
They're overwhelmed. Their job might be on the line
Yeah.
trying to shortlist. And a marketer who's never had to market outside their own features of their product or their solution
Right.
had to now find a way to engage their audience and pull them in and want to learn more about your solution and want to like be immersed inside your
Yeah.
world. And I was like, this is a challenge that I want to take on.
So let me just stop you right there because that I'm here. We talked about vibing. There's going to be some good vibing. As you were saying that, I'm like, and that's what I do at trade shows. Is like just the challenge of that, and how do I get creative about making it interesting, making it engaging for people to want to learn, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of this. Well, I was going to say two sides of the same coin, but it's more like we're actually just the same side of different coins in the pocket of I don't know. No, the metaphor is
Yeah,
gone.
they're
Um,
cumulative. Yeah.
yeah, they're cumulative. They're stacking up. No, but like you're doing it, online, on the websites in a visual sense. For that, we're doing it at trade shows, but it is a challenge because you're communicating things that are boring, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
They are, very niche. We need to speak to a certain level, and maybe complex, right? And I think, what you do really does chunk things down and make it consumable. So tell
Right.
us what is screen space? Can you define it for people? Because, we kind of talked about it, but and it is one of those things that almost, seeing it is really getting it,
Yeah.
which is very similar also to our performances in trade shows too. We can talk about it. It doesn't do it justice, but
Yeah.
let's do the best justice we can, Darren, and speak to it.
Well, the best way to do that is the whole imagine if, right? So
Yeah.
imagine, you're looking for a solution. You've got a complex, CRM maybe you're looking for, or a tool that you need to solve a big pain, point. You got a thorn in your side. You're like, okay, I got to figure out how to solve for this, but I have no idea what my pain is. I don't know where it's coming from. Is this what it's, is this normal? Right. And so you're kind of in this space where you're like, I need to find something to help me with this, but I don't know where to start and what to look at. So the first thing you're going to do, right, is you're going to look at, you're going to ask your friends, you're going to, Google online, or actually today you're going to AI online, I guess is that what we call it? And ask, right? And it's going to give you, you're going to find, all right, here's 15 probably in a couple months now, 50 of the exact same solution. And you're going to start going through those websites to see what is it, how are they going to solve this for me? Is this the right fit? And everything is going to look the same, right? Every website, if you swap the logos around, they all say the same thing. You're not going to know who's who, why it matters. But now imagine you go to one website and you're, instead of scrolling through the same stuff that's all about them, you click a button and you're immersed inside of an interactive choose your own adventure experience where you get to choose your persona or your use case or your pain point, and it takes you through this interactive kind of choose your own adventure video type of experience that visualizes your world today. Right, you feel connected to, okay, they actually get me. That's the pain I'm feeling. All right, they've defined what I'm feeling right now, and then it takes you on a journey of what does the future state look like? What is it like if this was, solved for? What does that feel like? And we're visualizing these moments, right? And then we go into the journey and we show, okay, now it sounds too good to be true, but here's how we're actually going to take you step by step through that process and prove to you that we're going to actually deliver on that promise, and your life is going to be better, and it's going to look exactly like this. And the way we do that is we wrap it inside of a story, right? It's the story of the Imagine If, it's the stories of the other people that have gone through this same journey, the situational moment that they've been able to resolve. And that's what pulls people into this world that's narrative first, buyer centric, very visual, high level, compelling environments. And it's something that speaks directly to them. It's scalable so that they get to revisit that and learn more about their situation inside of a story versus feeling like they're being pitched to. Now, if you got 50 of these websites you're looking at, and they all look the same except for this one that stands out and talks about you, not about them, which is the one that you're going to want to,
Yeah.
chat with, right?
Yeah. Well, I think you did do it justice very well, Darren. I thought that was very well, very eloquent. And I encourage people to go check out Screenspace on this, or Engagify.ai and see it on our
Oh yeah,
site.
go
So
to
you can see
yeah,
what that
definitely.
looks like, right? But that idea of, and when you were doing it justice like you just did, Simon Bowen came up in my mind, right? And so Simon Bowen, if you haven't heard of him, he's out of Australia. He has a company called the Models Method, and he teaches companies and business owners how to really capture their own genius and then display that through models. And so I went through that process to create the models that we have at Engagify. And then I have them all hand drawn on an iPad, and I'm doing all these things, and I've got slides, but they really didn't play well, like just having a picture of that on the website. It didn't
Mm,
look branded. It didn't look good. And it was kind of like, it would, I could do the video of it, but the video of is very linear, and it's a commitment perhaps too for people to see, like, oh, it's 4 minutes long, forget it, or whatever.
you're right.
And so when we found Screenspace and Sarah McVannell introduced us, another Models Method cohort student that was with me, I was like, this is so perfect for conveying that information. So the reason Simon came up in my head was like, make sure that that you get them, right? That was it. You
Yep.
get them, and then you got them, meaning I got what you need, kind of thing. And so that's what was coming up in my head when you were saying that. So choosing your own adventure and the ability and the agency to explore these models, these frameworks on a website. Can you speak to that piece of control? Because I think that and the level of commitment seems lower because you're like, oh, I'm just going to click on this. So
Right.
talk about that, how Screenspace gives you that ability to just kind of explore and pique curiosity in that way.
Yeah, and that's a great way to kind of preface it. And Simon Bowen is a very good friend of mine and incredible. So I have to put a pin in that as well. That he's fantastic at exactly what you described. It's taking the genius that's trapped inside the founder's mind and turning it into a visual model. And this is something that we do as well. We have a different visual way we do this, that takes that complexity and something that, that's what truly, makes you, stand out from other businesses. It's the combination of the stories, the buyer journey that your customers experience with you and with your team, but
Mhm.
then that blended with the story, what I call the story DNA, which is trapped inside the founder. It's why they're here. What is that so unique in the process, in the methodology, in the relationships with their clients, that only they can own, right? Even if
Yeah.
a competitor tried to copy that, they couldn't, right? Because it's just not, and it wouldn't even translate because it's not true to who they are. And that's what we try to extract, is that moment, that world that's, trapped inside the buyer, and then sorry, inside the founder, and then visualize that, in a way that buyers can understand it and explore it on their own. And that's the whole idea, is there's a narrative to it that you want them to understand and go in the right order, but you want them to feel like they're in control. And that switches the script from being pitched to, where, you're even watching a video, you feel like you're being
Yeah.
told what to think. You're like, they don't know me. They recorded this,
Yeah.
3 months
Yeah.
ago, right?
It's not
This
on. It's
everyone's watching this. But if it's framed in a way where they're in discovery mode, they're leaning forward and they're
yeah.
clicking through what's relevant to them, within guardrails that they don't see, but you still have control over it as the founder. They feel like they're discovering more about themselves within your story and your methodology.
Mhm.
Um, and anyone who wants to dive deep can dive deep, but anyone who doesn't have much time or can get overwhelmed very quickly, can stay surface level, but get everything that they need in order to form a decision. And we want to cater to each persona, that's both, different use cases, but also, being conscious of their time, their ethics, how they want to buy and how they want to learn. Everyone's very different. And so our mixed media, screen space has animation, video, interactivity. It's very cinematic. um, but it presents it, the information in a way that's very simple, and allows the buyer only to make it more complex, but it's bite-sized pieces, right? So you're not getting
Yeah.
overwhelmed with way too much information at once. It's, here's a bit of information, then they can explore deeper if it's relevant.
Yeah. Simple by design and complex by choice. If they choose to go,
Yes,
not complex, but they go
exactly. I
deeper,
like that.
deeper dive, if you will. Yeah. And what I love about it too is there's still, even though it's, you say choose your own adventure, but in the design, you are still laying out the choreography, as Simon would talk about it, right? Like
Yep.
how they explore the model in a certain sequence, and then they can go deeper in those different pieces. And so you can really, tell that information or convey that information in a way that it needs to be told. Because
Right.
sometimes from the storyteller's point of view, we need that structure or that order to be there.
Right.
Something else you said, Darren, was you know they put themselves into the story. When we hear a story, we automatically do that a little bit ourselves, right? But in this case, they can be in the story, not just a day in the life watching a character, but they can be sucked in themselves
Right.
and be walked through that process. So there's something really something more immersive, and I mean that's a word that keeps kind of coming up when we talk about this.
And I
um
think, and I
yeah,
want
go
to
ahead.
kind of riff off of that, Anders, because
Yeah,
this is something
please.
that you talk about a lot as well. And it's the idea of, who's the hero in the story.
Yeah.
And I think everyone naturally they want to be the hero. And this is, storytelling has been around, since the first discovery of hieroglyphics, right?
Yeah.
It's
Before Joseph Campbell wrote about it, it
before just,
existed.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
he started
right.
storytelling. It
Yeah,
didn't exist.
yeah, that's right.
And that was, and everyone wants to be the hero, and if they're not the hero, they're not going to relate.
Yeah.
And so it's about wrapping them and enabling them to feel like they're the hero. And the company, the business, that was the service or a product, is the guide. It's the enabler of,
Mhm.
helping them through their journey. And again, it's not just about getting to success, because humans aren't built to just get to the finish line and say, perfect, my life, this is great. I've reached success. I'm gonna just chill now, right? That might last a week or two, but then the body craves more journey, more experience. It wants more. And so uh helping people feel like you're there along their side, not just to get from 0 to 1, but you're there to help them, learn from them, and be their guide wherever they go. That's what positions you as someone that they can trust. It's not a tool that's going to get them somewhere. It's not someone that's going to say, "Yeah, just take 3 lefts, one right, and you're at McDonald's." It's someone who's going to walk by your side, and after you have your McDonald's sandwich number 2, it's okay. Now, where would you like to go? Like, let me help guide you to the next, place that's going to be relevant for you and your journey.
Yeah.
Um, and it's that story that we start with, and that's actually how all of our methodology works out. We have our own methodology, a 3-pillar system with 9 drivers that we've codified within Screenspace. And the core of it, a lot of it comes from our Hollywood experience in visualizing moments. If you can't point a camera at it, no, it's going to go right by someone's head, right? They're not going to
Mm-hmm.
be able to visualize themselves in that moment. And so if you have to paint that picture, and kind of a rule of thumb that everyone here can take away with today is that if you're using an S at the end of a word, clients, customers, stories, people can't see that, right? They can't see clients, right? But they can see Nancy, who's sitting inside her office at a waste management company in San Francisco, who feels like she's been drowned out by these competitors that came out of nowhere and started to encroach on her space, and she's staring at her bottom line and her quarterly review, and it's finally it's actually going down, and she's never seen this before and has no idea where it's coming from, and knows that these brand new companies does not have the experience that she has. You can visualize her in that moment in her office, right? But you can't visualize clients, or we have 9 customers that do the same thing. No one's going to relate to that. So
Right.
that's where you have to bring that in, is remove that S. You can use
Yeah.
it, but you could say, like, or
Right.
reminds me of this very specific person, name them, describe them, set the mood, the tone, like you're describing a scene in a movie.
And what a great way to like put a case study on its feet if you want, like
Hmm.
telling it as a story. And something that came to mind when you were saying that is, have you ever heard of Bo Eason, Darren?
Oh,
He's a
Easton, I recognize the name.
storytelling like a speaker and coach, and you can look him up. He
Yeah.
played for the San Francisco 49ers as a safety with Joe Montana and uh,
Oh, my dad was
I mean
their surgeon, so he actually probably knows him. I'll get
he
an intro. I'll get a warm intro.
like going way back, he
Oh
might have
yeah.
operated on Bo's knees because he had like 7 knee surgeries.
Oh,
So who
100%.
knows?
Yeah, those
Okay,
Joe
so
Montana years. Yeah.
that check that out. Okay, we're going off on the tangent, but the reason I talk about it is he became an actor after he got hurt too many times,
Hmm.
and he did put on a one-man show, and then he started actually training corporate people and business people how to tell stories, and he wrote his own play and all that. And so one of the points that he makes, and that is to be universal, get more specific. And
Hmm.
what you just did, like we think, oh, we'll just say clients, so it's all encapsulating, and it can,
Yeah.
it's a big fat word that doesn't mean much. But when you start talking about Nancy in this certain position, and then the people see themselves in the story, it becomes so much more meaningful. So it's the more specific you get, the more universal it can become
Yep.
for people, just because of that
Yeah,
way.
and
So
that's exactly what our workshops are built around. We don't talk about I mean, there's a component where we talk about, of course, like I mentioned, the story DNA, and we talk about your values, and those things are important, who you are as a your own business. But the majority of our workshop is around the buyer, and we don't talk about anything but visualizing them, like, what are they doing, when do they feel this pain? Are they in the car? Are they preparing for a meeting? Are they is it at the end of the day? Where are they? What time
What's
is
the
it? What are they
setting,
feeling?
right? Like
What's the
real
setting?
specific. Yeah.
Yep, yep. Is their wine, teetering on the edge of their desk at 1 a.m. before a QBR the next morning? What is that very specific moment that if
Yeah.
they can visualize it with your business, they go through this story and they see it, and then a week from now, they're in that exact moment, they're going to be thinking, wait a minute, I've
Yeah.
seen this before. I've felt this. This is exactly what they told me I'm going to feel going
Mm.
through this. And they're immediately going to think of your brand because they visualize themselves in that actual room, in that situation. The nice thing about this is it also forces the marketing team or the founders to understand, is this an actual pain point that they have? If you are increasing revenue, is that like, that's not situational, that's just overall, that's abstract, right? It benefits are abstract. It's what's the capability or that moment that if you can't pinpoint an actual moment that they feel the pain, a task that they're actually doing that that they feel it, then you're not solving a real problem. The more you understand not just your buyers, but the moment they're going through and why they're feeling that way, that's what we extract, and that's what we then visualize through these interactive stories.
Talk about getting into the skin of your customer, right? Like just when you did the when you said the wine precariously placed, like I was kind of like in my mind, I was almost like, whoa, like I was trying to
Yeah,
catch it.
yeah.
Like
But
how that is such
their
a
heads in their
yeah,
hands and they're looking the other
yeah,
way. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, it's such powerful visuals. But the idea of those circumstances being echoed in real life for those real customers is super powerful. Darren, I want to talk about like when people come to you and I'm gonna guess maybe they're trying to make it all about them, but what is that mistake or what are those common things that you see marketers, companies trying to do, and then
Mhm.
they kind of see the light when they take a workshop from you or start using Screenspace and start thinking in that visual sense.
Yeah. It's a great question, and where, and I guess you're kind of going back to that pain point, right? That our buyers are feeling, and what's that
Yeah,
means for them.
it's well, we're getting meta
We're
now.
getting so meta.
It's like if you did a workshop on yourself, what would
Oh
you?
man,
Yeah.
selling
Okay, go
screen
ahead.
space has
Yeah,
been the hardest
yeah,
thing because
yeah,
of
yeah.
that exact.
Right, because
Um,
it's
one of the biggest risks, especially today, is, and a lot of people do this, is they think, another competitor who has a prettier site or feel like they've got it together. You start to analyze your competitors and see what are they doing, and let's try to do what they're doing, but a little bit better, right?
mm,
Or they go and say, oh, they just did a glow up on their website. We need to do the same thing. We look like we're stuck in the 90s. So they'll hire, a $5,000 Upwork designer to just grab a template and throw things in it,
right.
right? Um, or we'll find they'll try to adopt a product that can scale their content, and they'll try to see the analytics, but it's the same content they've already done. It's essentially the three pillars that you solve one thing, but it's not gonna it's surface level, right? So you might get a tool that's going to help it boost your marketing presence in AI or on SEO, and you get more exposure, but then it's going to taper off, right? It's just a little bump.
Mm.
You're going to do a glow up on your website. You're going to see, a little bit more traction, get super excited about it, but people don't actually resonate with the story that you're trying to tell.
Still
But it looks
saying the
good.
same thing,
Yeah, it
right? It's
hooks you
still
in,
saying
but it's still the same thing. You could still swap
yeah,
out that logo and it's
yeah.
just like anyone else. Or they change the narrative and they work with, someone who's a, positioning expert, and you spend $20,000 on this person to do a deep dive and research and all the things. And you get a fancy document that has everything you need to do. And that document, starts collecting dust and no one's actually acting on it. They don't know how to turn that into something that's customer facing. So all of these things are very surface level. If your competitors are doing it, you shouldn't be doing the same thing. And when they come to us, they're not coming to us for a glow up, for the website, for a visual design, for It's the of transformation. They realize we're in a position where we are too close to our competitors, and we need to make a big change, a fundamental change that's going to set us at the top and set up gates that's going to prevent us from falling back into the noise of all of our competitors. And that's what we've built with screen spaces. When we engage with them, we have our three pillar system: narrative, strategy, where we start to we extract those elements from them and their buyers to understand what it is that is unique that only they can say. Then we turn that into content that represents the narrative. So it's cinematic, it's Hollywood level, very visual, emotional moments that are pulled from that narrative foundation. And even if you do that, now that's great, but now you have to get it in front of everyone. So our third pillar is visibility engine, and that's where we distribute this and get it in front of their audience through a platform where we hand everything off. It's all done for you, but then we hand it off into our screen space platform where they can now capture leads through the interactive experiences. They can watch their visitors go through the story and see what paths are resonating, what are they actually experienced in, what are they interested in. That goes back to the sales team, so the sales team understands each individual buyer and their journey. And so we're scaling that to make sure it's getting in front of the right people, and that it has a feedback loop system back to the narrative and back to the visuals, so we know that is if it's what's working and what's not, and how can we automatically improve the full process, the full system, then as to keep you from falling back. And that's the main differentiator, right? It's not a new website, a new design, a new messaging,
Yeah.
canvas. It's a system that's going to set you above your competitors, position you as a category as one, right? So no one's comparing you to anyone else because you have a very unique offer that, even if it sounds like it's waste management, one of our top clients that
Yeah.
we have right now, waste management, you go to their website and it doesn't feel like another waste management company. It
Yeah.
feels like they have their own unique ingredients that is catered directly to and built and designed around the buyer. And so now they're not comparing you to anyone else. And so that's the whole system, the methodology, and all of those components are critical in order to produce that clarity, the authority that is unique to you, and really building that confidence for your buyers that you're the right choice. Um,
You said something earlier too, touching on the emotional piece, and when you think B2B and emotion, those don't usually go together. Like
no.
I agree that they do. And in one of my models, we actually talk about adding emotion, and it's the
Yep,
trade show
it's
triangle
one of
and
my
everything.
favorite components
So,
of your model. Yeah.
yeah, awesome. So with that, like, I mean, when I talk about creating engagement, and uh, we have a little system that we talk about trying to re-engage people, and we call it Save You, and it's
Mhm.
SAVEU, and the E is for emotion. And if you can play to that emotion, you're going to be able to get people to imagine with storytelling, and get people involved and all of that. But whenever I talk about it, it sounds like we want to get emotional with it. It sounds like, well, we don't want people to cry necessarily, but we want someone to
Not
feel
always.
something, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, but yeah, if we want people to feel something, and that, to me, in a lot of businesses, they're almost not comfortable with that, right? they
Yeah.
don't they don't almost get that is a critical piece of this standing out, of this being engaging, that.
Mhm.
And so, um with that, like, is there ever any pushback on some of the things, or do people just, like, they fall in love with it because you guys paint that picture so beautifully that people kind of go, yes, that's what we need? Or how
There's
does that emotion thing play out? Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's definitely it's an uncomfortable process in the very beginning, right? It's something that no other competitor is doing because that's the point, right? If all your
Yeah.
competitors are doing the same thing, like using AI, everyone's going to look the same, and that's why AI cannot do this. It's the status quo, right?
Hmm.
And so when they come to us, it's putting them outside their comfort zone, right? And I've Nancy, the waste management company founder and CEO, when we first presented, she initially came to me with a recording of her presentation, which is what you would expect, it to be. It was a very lengthy, PowerPoint presentation with a lot of words on screen, and she read the words on the screen, right? And that was, and I looked at her website, and I looked at all the collateral she had, and I literally swapped out the logo with her competitor, and I said, which one's you, right? And she's like, okay. That's when she was like, okay, something has to change, and it has to be big, right? And then I reworked everything. I got her case studies. She kind of, dumped everything over. I did my own research, and I presented her a brand new story, a presentation through Screenspace, but it was all stories. There was nothing that was, here's what we do. It's, here's how we helped Laura. This is what Laura went through before and after, and here's where we went in and helped her. Now we've wrapped a feature inside of a story. And so everything was story. And so she said, going into that call, in the very beginning of the call, she said, I just want you to know this is very outside my comfort zone. I'm very excited to see what you have, but I'm just kind of on the edge. At the end of that call, she cried. She was so, she's never seen what was trapped inside of her head and what made her business so personal to her actually visualized in a medium that she can hand to someone and know that if anyone goes through that, guaranteed they know exactly why we're different, who we are, who I am, and why and that we're here for them. Guaranteed if they go through it. If they don't go through it, obviously they're not going to see that. But it was a very emotional moment, and I've seen this with multiple clients where it's not surface level. It's not just a patch. It's not just a new website that's like, we're so cool, this is great, we're going to post about it. It's fundamentally, I want to show my mom and my dad, because finally the business I've been building for 15, 20 years or more in this, hands-on industrial space, this this is the first time it represents who we are, and who we service and who we do this for. And that moment where she just couldn't talk because she was just so emotional, it makes me emotional just thinking about, going
Yeah,
back to that moment.
it's
But
beautiful.
that was that kind of trigger where I realized you had that significant contrast within a 30-minute call from, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm ready, I know I need to do something very different, to after the call realizing this is the best decision I've ever made in my 20 years of business, because now we're totally different and I can own it. I can actually own the new us. Um, and so when it comes back to the emotion, obviously that pinpoints the emotion
For
pretty
sure.
tight there. But when it comes to, buying and people making decisions, it's a very it's not just logical. Obviously, it does have to deliver on the promise, but it's a very much an emotional decision, and that is why the companies that win are not the companies that have the best solution. It's the ones that can tell the best story and communicate their value the best. And if you have the best solution, the reason why I'm here on this earth is I want to make sure those companies that do have a fantastic solution can also communicate their story and their value better than anyone else, so that they can actually help more people that need the help. And I want to be able to connect people to the right solutions that are actually going to solve, big problems for people.
Wow, that was awesome, Darren. And just like and if you're listening to this right now, definitely check out Screenspace and check out that one website of Nancy's there, the waste
Yeah,
management.
if you go to bayareabinsupport.com.
There you
And
go.
if you're in
Because
San Francisco, you should also, yeah, Bay Area Bin Support.
that's right.
And at the top, there's a little button that says Our Story. We
Yeah,
designed the whole website. We did all the messaging. Everything that you see through their brand is we touched. So yeah,
yeah,
definitely a great place to kind of see what the after looks like.
for sure, for sure. So, Darren, how can people reach out to you? What's the best way if they hear this podcast and they go, "Wow, this sounds pretty cool"?
Yeah.
Where can
So
they reach out
there's
to you?
Yeah, so I'm getting more and more active on LinkedIn, now that we've got a lot more to share. So LinkedIn is a fantastic place. Darren Fanton, on LinkedIn. You can also find me through our website. I'm very hands on with our clients, to the point where we actually have I offer a free 30-minute strategy call, no pitching. It's all about you. And if anyone is listening to this feels like I might have my story down, but I just want to kind of get someone else's eyes on it. Or if you feel like you're drowning in the noise and your competitors are, your inferior competitors are stealing the clients that you should be owning, let's hop on a call and we'll chat about, and identify where those gaps might be, and put you on a path, whether it's with Screenspace or not, to get to that point where you feel confident that you're back on track, and you're where you should be, and your messaging and your brand represents the quality of service that you offer.
Beautiful. Excellent. Darren, thanks so much for coming on. I think I want to have you on again sometime.
I
We'll
would
get
love
into
to.
some
Yes.
other things, but we could go on and on, but I think this has been a great first time episode with you, and I want to thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you, Anders. This is great to finally have people that as flies on the walls just listening to our regular chats.
The geeking out. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Thanks again, Darren. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in once again. And until next time, you know what to do. Stay engaged. Thank you so much for listening to Engaging Personalities. If you believe this world needs more engagement and you're an industry leader or you have an interesting take on rehumanizing business, go to go.engagify.ai/podcast-guest to apply and come on the show. If you got something out of this interview, do you mind sharing it on your social media? Just grab a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show. Include the hashtag Engaging Personalities. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, engagify.ai, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and stay engaged.